Hello and welcome to my video how to make an amazingly professional PowerPoint. We're going to just start by opening PowerPoint by going to the Start menu and then just clicking on Microsoft Office PowerPoint 2007. The first thing I like to do when I make my PowerPoints is put it into a widescreen setup, and you do this by going to the Design tab, clicking Page Setup, and then changing the on-screen ratio to 16:10 by doing so as I've shown you. And I think this gives the PowerPoint a sort of cinematic feel, which helps to add to the professionalness of the PowerPoint. The next thing that I think is important to do is to get your background right from the start. And we do this by going to the View tab, clicking on Slide Master, and then going to the top tab, because this affects all of your slide types, and then right clicking on the white space on the slide, and then clicking Format Background. Now you can choose your solid fill option as your sort of basis of a colour. So I've chosen blue here, and then you can change the tinges of this blue by messing around with the gradients. So here I've chosen the direction of my gradient to be a kind of radical gradient, so it comes out from the middle outwards. You can change where the gradient sort of stops and where it starts by using the gradient stops, and you can add those by pressing the Add button, and you can just mess around with those until you find a design that you like. And obviously you can change the colours of these kind of individual bits of the tinge of the gradient by just choosing which stop you're using and then changing the colour of it. I think it's important when you use this is make sure when you use a darker colour you have a lighter font, and when you have a lighter font you have a darker background, because this just makes it easier to see. And obviously once you've done, press Apply to All to keep a uniform background for your PowerPoint. The next thing that's important to get sorted out in your PowerPoint is your fonts. Now we do this by going to Master Slide, and the reason that Master Slide is important when we make our fonts is because it ensures that there's a uniformity across all the slides. So if you change the font, style, then for the headers, then the header font styles will stay the same throughout the PowerPoint, which is obviously important if you're trying to make it look professional. Now you can just change any sort of formatting thing, and it will be the same throughout the PowerPoint. So you can change colours, bold, italics, underlined, making it bigger, smaller, whatever, and it will be the same throughout the PowerPoint. And the other thing that I like to do when I make my PowerPoint is the headers. I like to make them into a kind of banner. So I use the shape fill option to fill the whole box into a certain colour. Now this sort of flags up to your audience, this is my title, and that's why it's in another colour. And I just think it's a cool way of just distinguishing your title from the main body of your text. And I like to align it to the left. But obviously that depends on your preference. And obviously because it's a darker background, I've used the white font there. And as you can see throughout the master slide, the different kinds of slide are all the headers are the same, which ensures that it is uniform. The next thing that I just kind of want to show you guys is in the main body of your text you can actually change the kind of bullet points you use. So obviously you've got these kind of preset ones here, but if you go to the bullet and numbering option just below it, then if you go to the picture button, then you've got a lot of other kind of options that you could potentially choose. But I think that the preset ones are pretty good, they're pretty standard, they look pretty good, and I don't think you need to add any more colour to the bullet points, because I think it kind of detracts from the professionalness of it. But then again, it's up to you. Just for me, I just kind of personally don't like them too much, the sort of the other ones, but I think these ones are pretty good. And then obviously if you want to, you can add footers and other stuff as well. Now this one's particularly important if you're in a kind of corporate environment, and you can add your logo on the same place in every slide. And we do this by again going to Master Slide, and then if you insert your company logo by going to the Insert tab and then clicking Picture, and then finding your logo, you can insert it onto the PowerPoint, and then you can put it wherever you want it, and then throughout your PowerPoint it'll be in exactly the same place. And then we can mess around with the various picture tools that we've got in PowerPoint, so we can make it into a kind of 3D. We can make it into a 3D logo by using the picture effects, or we can add kind of we can change the brightness of it, or we can change kind of other things that you'll see when you mess around with it yourself. I can't go through all of them with you, but there are quite a few things that you can do with it. As you can see here, I'm just going through the options just to show you kind of the different things that you could potentially use. And then once you're done, go back to the Slide Master tab and then click Close Slide Master, and then you can see that it's in that space in the PowerPoint, and it'll be there throughout every slide. Next thing I want to show you is using actually regarding the actual slides itself. So obviously you can change the text in the boxes by just clicking on them and then typing in. And obviously the bullet points will stay the same once you press the enter key, and then more bullet points will just come up. So just typing in some random business stuff. And then you can make this text much smaller to be able to fit other things on the slide, and especially if you're in a kind of corporate environment, it's quite important if you could maybe have graphs and stuff on the screen. So we do this by going to the Insert tab and then clicking on Chart, and then depending on the kind of data you can have, just choose what you want. So I'm going to be showing revenue on my graph, so I've chosen a line graph, and then it brings up this kind of Excel spreadsheet, and then you may have your own data that you can just copy and paste into the Excel spreadsheet itself, but I'm just going to make it up here. So I'm going to call my series revenue, because it's going to be the revenue for my business, and then the categories are going to be the individual years. So perhaps 4 years. You can make it as long as you want. You can have as much data in there as you want, but just for simplicity, just using four pieces of data. And obviously you can use this option here to make sure that it's all in pounds, but there are other things you can use as well, such as measurements and other things. And the reason that it's coming up with those kind of characters is because there's not actually enough space for Excel to show the data which is in there. So you just have to drag this cell out to make it big enough to be able to see the whole thing. And then once you press close, the graph will come up like that, and you can stretch it out and make it fit the space that you have. And you can get rid of the kind of revenue key by just clicking on it and then just pressing backspace, and that makes there more room available just for your graph. And then if you want to kind of highlight specific bits on your graph, you can use arrows by going to Insert and then Shapes, and then you can sort of highlight specific parts of your graph if that's what you want to do. It's just one way in which you can use the auto or the shape features in PowerPoint to sort of aid your PowerPoint, and kind of try and make sure that the shapes you put in are uniform with your colour scheme, because this sort of ensures a uniformity across the whole PowerPoint. And then you can insert a text box to sort of annotate the arrow. And then you can change the outline of the text box as well by going to, well, you can, first is change the font for it, and you can change the way the text is, and then you can put an outline of the box just to make it sort of easier to see it. And then you can change the weight of the box as well, and the colour. Perhaps changing the weight is quite good because it makes it easier to see the lines. And then another cool thing that you can do as well is group those two shapes into a single shape, which would make it easier when dragging a lot of things around. But make sure when you do it, don't drag the individual shapes, drag the outline of the whole shape together, because otherwise it will just drag an individual part of the shape itself. Quite often when you do a PowerPoint, you just end up with kind of big blank spaces, and one way that you can kind of fill this space is by using clip art pictures. I wouldn't use too much of them because they could detract from kind of the main thing that you're saying, and they can be quite irrelevant sometimes. But I think if you use photographs, I think they can just be a good way of just filling in the gap, that any sort of spaces in your PowerPoint. Microsoft Office have a massive collection online, and if you click on insert and then clip art, and then you can press the area that you search in, and if you include Microsoft Office Online, then you'll have a whole range of different photos to choose from. And you can also choose the type of photo as well. So you can choose photographs or clip arts, and then you just drag click on it, click on the photo you want, and insert into your PowerPoint. The next thing that's quite cool in PowerPoint is changing the slide transitions. Now the slide transitions are just the animations that occur when you change from one slide to another. So you do this by going to the animations tab, and then you can see there's various options that you can choose at the top there. If you press the kind of downward arrow, then you get even more options to choose from. And I recommend fast animations, because people in your PowerPoint don't want to be sitting through these kind of tedious animations that just keep coming up every time you change the slide. So you make sure that you kind of choose a fast one, not a slow one, because it can become quite sort of tedious for your audience otherwise. You can preview it by pressing the preview button on the top left, and then you can just kind of see the different things, the different slide transitions, and obviously apply to all, keeping the uniformity of the PowerPoint, and then you can see that each slide transition is like that. The next, arguably most controversial part of a PowerPoint presentation is a custom animation. Now, I got many comments from my last video saying that you're not meant to use custom animations when making in a professional environment, but I think this is quite wrong, because I think that custom animations allow you to show your points gradually, so that your audience aren't just thrown like with a load of information. They kind of be overwhelmed by it if you put it all out there at once. So I think this is why custom animations are good, because they help you to gradually reveal your points. Now we add custom animations by going to the animations tab and then clicking custom animation. Now we can animate specific parts of a text box by, for example, by highlighting the individual text that you want to animate, and then by clicking add effect on the right hand side box, and then choosing the animation that you want. Now we can animate two different parts of the PowerPoint presentation at the same time as well. So if we've got our graph and we want it to come in with the revenue, then we can right click on the chart bit on the animations pane, on the animations box. We can right click on it, and then we can click start with previous, and then this will ensure that they both come up at the same time, like so. And then obviously we'll animate the second bit as well. So it will first come up with the part about revenue and the graph at the same time, and then it will come up with a reason. So you're sort of revealing your points to your audience slowly, instead of just throwing it all out there at once. And then obviously you do the same thing with this one as well. And there are other effects you can do with PowerPoint as well, such as using emphasis, and this essentially is just kind of the pictures and text are already there, and this is just kind of messing around. Emphasis just messes around with what's already there, so it could spin the picture around, for example, but I've never encountered a situation where I've needed to do that, so I rarely use them. The final feature of PowerPoint, which I think is really useful, is using the notes pages. Now the notes pages are at the bottom of every slide, and basically in here you just write what you're going to actually say in your PowerPoint. So you can just say what you're discussing. You can either write out the whole thing, or you can just write out bullet points. Now it depends on what your kind of preference is, but either which way they can be very useful. And once you've written in the kind of the text that you're going to put into on every slide, you can then print these pages out with the slides themselves. And we'll just show you this once I finish typing in some text in all the slides. So in order to print off these things, we go to the to the print part of the PowerPoint, And then where it says print what, we're going to change this to notes pages. So once we click on notes pages, it will come up with our notes on each individual slide that we're printing out, which can be useful because it can tell you what slide you're talking about with your notes. So that can help you when you're talking. This concludes my video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comments section below. But thanks for watching my video. I hope to see you watching my other videos soon.